Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristen Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Are you trying to conceive after loss, or maybe thinking about trying to conceive after loss? I know this journey can feel so incredibly heavy, lonely, and overwhelming at times. The hopes, the fears, the grief. It can really feel like no one truly understands what you are actually carrying. And that's exactly why I created Mother Like No Other, a nurturing, flourishing community for women navigating this tender season. Here, you are not just joining a group. You are stepping into a space where your feelings are held, your experiences are understood, and your journey is honored. You'll connect with other lost moms who truly get it, learn practical tools to help you through those really hard days, and gain guidance from me and other guest speakers on the topics you're really wanting to learn. Each month, we come together for a learning workshop where we dive into topics like grounding strategies, self-advocacy, and nurturing your mind, body, and soul. It's a place to feel supported, to grow, and to prepare for the journey ahead without judgment, without pressure, and without long-term commitment. For only $22 a month, you can join when you need it most. If you're ready to feel seen, held, and understood, come join us. Find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/motherlikenoother. I hope to see you inside. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Rainbow Connection. Today, I am joined by someone many of you may already know, the lovely Sarah Herron. Now, you might recognize Sarah from The Bachelor, where she first entered our screens and our hearts over a decade ago now, but her story extends far beyond reality TV. Sarah is an adventure enthusiast, IVF warrior, disability advocate, and now, of course, an Earth mother to twin girls after navigating her infertility journey and the heartbreaking loss of her son, Oliver. She has used her platform to build communities for women walking through some of life's most vulnerable spaces: disability, infertility, pregnancy loss, grief, and now motherhood. She is the founder of nonprofit She Lift, the support group The Infertile Circle, and the hiking club Tents Without Gents. In our conversation today, Sarah opens up to us about her journey to motherhood, the shock of her infertility diagnosis, the devastation of losing her son Oliver, and the deep grief and spiritual searching that followed. She shares what it was like to carry twins after loss, the milestones, the anxiety, the faith that she leaned on, all of it. We talk about her daughter's premature birth, their NICU stay, and the duality of grief and joy in motherhood, especially after loss. Sarah's story is so honest. She has always been so open and transparent about her story, and that's one of the things that I really admire about her. It's also one of heartbreak and resilience, but it's also full of so much love. And I just am feeling so honored that I get to be the one to share it with you today. Okay, enough from me. Now let's hear from Sarah. Welcome to another episode of The Rainbow Connection. Today, I have a very special guest. One guest that is like a little bit different than my usual guest because I officially was introduced to Sarah, I don't even know, like maybe 13, 14 years ago, back when I was a Bachelor Nation fan. I've kind of like graduated from that, but I was one of her biggest fans on her old season, The Bachelor. And, I loved her then. She was such a charming, confident, caring person. And now I love her even more. So I'm really thrilled to introduce you to our next guest, Sarah Herron. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, thank you. I was like 13 years. Wait, when did we meet? Did I forget
I
this?
met you, but you didn't meet me until much
Yeah,
later. But back when we were babies, because like that
literal
was
babies. Yeah. I
what, early
mean, yeah.
20s? Wow.
I was 25. Yeah, 25 years
Wow.
old.
Yeah. So if it was like 14 years ago, how old am I now? Yeah, I was like 23. So we were
Yeah.
little spring chickens back then.
I know.
When I first started this podcast, Sarah, I have to say, I like asked my, followers, like, who do you guys want on the podcast? Like, who do you want to hear from? Whose story do you want to hear from? And I had like this overwhelming response. We need to hear from Sarah. We need to have Sarah
Mm.
on. So today feels like a really big moment because you were like my dream guest. And I know the listeners are so thrilled to hear from you. Like I said, you're so caring and lovable, and you have like a whole army of people that are rooting for you and your family and celebrating with you. So
Mm.
I'm just so
Oh,
thankful
thank
to
you.
hear from you today and hear more about your story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes both ways. Like, I just want to express, I don't remember how I came across your account right after
Those
my
days are blurry.
loss. Yeah. But it's like, it goes both ways because truly, like, some of your posts and the things that you said when I was so fresh in my grief was just like a literal light, like a life raft for me. So it's really special for me to be connecting with you on your podcast today because I don't know, there's probably not many I would go on anymore, but I will always like carve out time for you and your community and the work that
Um,
you're doing. So,
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, Sarah and I connected. We just talked about it briefly before we press record, but it must have been, you know, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. I guess it would
yeah.
be around 3 years ago. I was like super early, secretly pregnant with Senna, and Sarah was she's going to share more about it with us today, but in the depths of her grief. And
Uh-huh.
there's just this really special connection of, the lost mom community. And I was so grateful to meet Sarah and, get in touch with her then. So it's been about
Mm-hmm.
almost 3 years. How long has it been,
Mm-hmm.
Sarah?
Yeah, it'll be 3 years in January.
Yeah. So 2.5 years of, being in her life and becoming her friend.
Yeah.
So it's been really nice. Well,
Yeah.
why don't we dive in, Sarah? How does that sound? I would love to hear,
Let's do it.
yeah, I would love to hear more about, you've been so open and candid with us on social media, online already, but I would love to hear from the beginning. Like, how did your journey to motherhood start? What did that look like for you? And,
Mm-hmm.
and Dylan too, because he's a big part of this
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, it all started during COVID, like it did for many people. I think being like trapped home with your partner. We weren't even engaged yet, but we knew we were in it together. We're spending our lives together. We're doing this, and it kind of just like the light bulb went off for me that I was ready to start a family with Dylan. We had so much fun together traveling and adventuring, and I just wanted to be able to share that with children and add kids
Mm.
to the mix. And so we started trying to get pregnant and had no luck. And at the time I was like 32 years old, I think. Yeah, 32. And so I was kind of like aware that if you go about 6 months with no luck, you should see a fertility doctor or at least get your hormones tested. And so that's exactly what we did, and quickly learned that I had diminished ovarian reserve. So right out the gates, like my OB said, this is going to be hard. You should probably just go straight to IVF, which is exactly what we did.
Yeah, like what was that like? Because I'd be like, what? This is not what I what I
No, it was
pictured for
like,
us.
it's pretty traumatic as a 32-year-old woman who isn't married or engaged, because I was like, in my OB's clinic by myself, having this information told to me. And the first thought through my head was like, well, now Dylan's not going to want to stay with me. Like, that's, IVF, that's just a whole nother ball game. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be grueling. He's not going to want to go through all that with someone when he could just like go find a spring chicken.
Sure.
And so I was pretty nervous, but I went home and I told him, and without skipping a beat, he was just like, okay, well, let's start looking into doctors then, I guess, because time is of the essence. And so we immediately started IVF. that was just the route. Like, I have family members who've done IVF, and that was the recommendation. Like, rather than trying a bunch of different fertility medications first, we just wanted to like go big or go home.
I think when you have DOR too, and people are constantly like, oh, time isn't on your side. And you're like, okay, well, no time to waste. Let's just make sure whatever
Yeah.
we do gives us the best possible outcome, right?
Yes, exactly. So immediately started IVF and went through a couple, I think a few different rounds of egg retrievals and did a transfer and it didn't work. And so then we explored the possibility that I had endometriosis and I had, a laparoscopy for that. And we kind of just like crossed all variables off the table to make the best chance possible for implantation moving forward, because obviously, like, we didn't get a lot of embryos, even though I did a total now of 4 egg retrievals. When you
Wow.
have diminished ovarian reserve, you don't really yield very many embryos. Another factor that we learned along the road, I always forget this piece, is that Dylan and I were both carriers of cystic fibrosis. And so
Mm.
that also impacted our embryos, because 1 in 4 embryos that you create statistically will have the cystic fibrosis gene. So that also like cut our numbers in a quarter.
Mm.
So, long story short, finally went in for my second embryo transfer, feeling good about it, had done all the like laparoscopies, cleared out my uterus, got ready, and transferred the embryo that would become my pregnancy with Oliver. And learned I was pregnant. Oh my gosh, literally, Kristen, I just got chills because I believe it was August. It was like right now. It was August 20 something. I'll have to go back and confirm the dates, but it was, yeah, literally.
Mm.
It was, I want to say it was like the weekend before Labor Day.
Okay. That's this
It was,
weekend.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so, oh gosh. And so we found out we were pregnant. It had worked and it was like just so surreal. Best feeling in the whole world, right? And we were like, okay, let's just sit with the information for a little bit, just privately for us. And I decided to take my dog out for a walk and tripped while I was walking my dog on
Mm.
the sidewalk and fell and broke my knee.
I
So,
forgot about this, Sarah.
so the day that I found out I was pregnant, I also fell and broke my knee and was just overwhelmed with this, like, what do I do? We have to go to the emergency room. Should I get x-rays? Can I get x-rays? Like, can I take pain medication? No. Can I have surgery? No. And just went through this whole, like, in the drop of a dime, like your whole world changes because now you're pregnant and you have a broken bone and there's nothing you can do about it. So
Mhm.
I spent the first trimester pregnant with Oliver literally on the couch with a broken leg, and couldn't walk, couldn't get up to go to the bathroom when I was feeling sick. But in a way, it was just like so, it was nice to just be in it, like be truly in my body on the couch, resting, growing Oliver.
Yeah, it was like super quiet time, obviously, for you guys. Like you had no other choice really
Yeah.
but to be present with
Yeah,
him,
I
right?
was exactly. It was just like I was reading all the books about pregnancy nutrition and how to like speed up bone healing through nutrition and it was really a pretty tender, sweet time of life. And I remember just looking from my couch at the leaves changing color where I live in Colorado, because the leaves change color in September. And so from the beginning of my pregnancy, the leaves were green. And by the time I was able to like get off the couch and start walking, the leaves were falling. And so it was just like crazy to actually watch the passage of time outside my window. So, kind of jumping forward here, and we can definitely go back into everything. Went through first and second trimester, and then right around, we took a quote unquote early baby moon to Maui and celebrated. And then around 25 weeks and some days, we lost Oliver. And that was just when, like, our worlds got turned upside down. Meanwhile, all my best friends in my community were pregnant. It was, like, the hardest thing to watch all of your best friends continue on with their pregnancy while you're losing yours. And so from there, I spent the next 6.5 months or so trying to heal spiritually, physically, just trying to, like, figure out the path forward. And we went through a couple more rounds of IVF that didn't work. And then finally, almost a year later, we were kind of over it. And we were like, just, we have 2 embryos left, throw them in. I'm done. Like, I'm burnt
Mm.
out. We're going to start romanticizing a life without kids. So let's just put the last 2 embryos in and pray something sticks. And if not, we're at peace with that. And both embryos stuck. And
What was it like in that like first scan when you realized like, holy shit, we're having twins? I mean, like
well,
hopefully having twins, right? We'll talk about that too.
yeah, I mean, we put both embryos in, like, as I just said, like, hoping, praying for the best, but kind of really not expecting anything at all at this point. And so when we went in for my first ultrasound, we saw a baby on the screen and had a strong heartbeat, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." And kinda just, like, I don't know, the appointment was, like, almost over, like, we were wrapping up, and Dylan was like, "So, just to be clear, there's only 1 heartbeat in there, right? Because we transferred 2 embryos." And I should mention the detail that, I had to do my scans at a different clinic because my IVF doctor was out of state, and so, I went to Dr. Amy Avazadeh, also known as the Egg Whisperer. And so when I did my first scan, that was back at home in Colorado with a local, technician here. So she didn't know the details of, like, our embryo transfers. And so Dylan's like, "There's only 1 heartbeat, right? Just to confirm." And she was like, "Oh, did you transfer 2 embryos?"
Oh, she probably
Right.
stopped searching, right? When
Yeah,
she found one.
and he goes, "Yeah, we transferred 2 embryos." And she literally just, like, moved the wand the tiniest bit, and boop, there was baby B. And it was so surreal because there's a chance with IVF, and especially when you put 2 embryos in, that you're gonna get multiples, but you don't really think it's gonna happen. And so it was just like, yeah, it was a true, like, "Oh shit, what did we do?" Why? Like, I wanted 1 baby, I didn't want 2 babies, and I really had I'm not gonna lie, like, I had a really hard time for that whole first trimester because I was just like,
Like, how are we gonna do this?
how are we gonna do this? I didn't think we were gonna get twins." And then, of course, you go through all the trauma of, like, now you're not just hoping 1 sticks, but you hope both stick, and now you're nervous every week, every day about, like, the health and survival of both babies, um, and not just, like, making it to your 20-week viability appointment anymore. It's like, are both babies gonna stick around? Are both babies gonna be healthy? And it was double the anxiety for a long
Yeah,
time.
I bet. So definitely talk about Oliver more, but I know that like in the loss community, for anyone that's experienced loss, passing, the gestation that you did lose your baby at with 2 babies, like what was that like for you? Do you have any like milestone days in your mind that you were like, "Kate, that's going to be what I'm aiming for. Like that's our finish line."
Really, I mean, I was like, just get us to 32 weeks, which is
Mhm.
so crazy because they were born at 32 weeks.
Wow.
But I was like, just get us to 32 weeks because where I live, I knew that that's the week we would be able to, like, the NICU can accept them here. If they're born prior to that, we have to get shipped to Denver, and that made me very nervous. So I was like, I just want to get to 32 weeks, just want to get to 32.
Mhm.
But I will say, like, there was a sense of calm and peace that I had throughout my pregnancy. Don't get me wrong, like, I was constantly riddled with the, like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't felt baby move today," or "Baby A is moving, but baby B isn't moving. And I was constantly like scanning my body in that way. But at the same time, like I had this peace and comfort, and I truly did feel like they're going to get here. Like I do feel like they're going to get here. I feel nervous, and my anxiety is making me have thoughts, but I do feel confident that like, I'll just say it. Like, I was like, Oliver's not going to do that to me. Like, Oliver is going to get them here. He's watching over us. And I think I just had to use that. I had to like lean on it. Even as illogical as it is, I just was like,
You need something, right? You
yeah,
need
you
some
need
sort of
something.
solace.
You cling on to whatever faith or hope you can get. And so I was like, he won't do that to me. He's not going to do that to me. He is going to get them here. And I just leaned on that. But so yeah, 32 weeks was my milestone, like just get to 32 weeks. And they came at 32 weeks and 5 days. So yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
never forget waking up to that post, because I think, we were all watching you and we were all holding our breath and just
Yeah.
could not wait for these baby girls to arrive safely.
Yeah. Thank
Now, what was that like? I'm pretty sure I remember a little bit of that story too, but why don't you, enlighten us with how, baby girls made their arrival?
Yeah, so pretty crazy. I still to this day don't know what caused my labor. Um, I thought I had food poisoning. I had woke up one summer day, uh, June 30th, I guess, woke up super hot and had vomiting and diarrhea. And I was like, oh, I guess I ate some bad Indian food last night. Really thought it was food poisoning. And was just getting like progressively sicker throughout the day. And I called the hospital and I was like, I'm throwing up. I have diarrhea. Should I come in? And they were like, no, this is food poisoning. Just let it run its course. It usually takes about 24 hours. Stay super hydrated. I was like, okay. And then I called back 6 hours later. I was like, it's getting worse. Are you sure I should not come in? And they were like, do you have any contractions? And I said, no. And they were like, you're okay. Just give it 24 hours. And I was like, okay. And then around 5 o'clock that night, my husband arrived home from a work trip. Thank God. Like he had been flying that whole day, got home at 5 and could see I was very sick and trying to sleep in the bed. And he was just like spooning me because I was so uncomfortable, so sick, couldn't stop throwing up. And the vomiting was like really intense. And so I think around the last time I threw up, my stomach started contracting. And I was like, oh gosh, now I'm having Braxton Hicks.
Because I'm so dehydrated. Like it all kind of like
Yeah.
logically makes sense, right?
Yeah. And so I started timing my Braxton Hicks, and I was like, I don't know anything about this because we're not supposed to be here for at least another like 3 or 4 weeks. So I haven't like researched how to time contractions. And I, in my mind, always thought I would have a C-section. Like I just never thought I was going to go into labor. So I'm Googling how to time contractions, and they say, I don't even remember, like once they get closer than 5 minutes apart or something. Like
Everyone has like different kind of scale, but yeah, usually like with a high risk pregnancy, twin pregnancy, I would think like it's time to make your way to the hospital.
yes, right? So I was 5 minutes apart, and this went on for about 3 hours, and I tried to sleep, could not get comfortable, and was just so uncomfortable tossing and turning. And I told Dylan, I'm going to go downstairs and sleep on the couch because I'm just like tossing and turning so much. By the time I got to the bottom of the stairs and laid down on the couch, my contractions were 2 minutes apart. 2 minutes apart, and I still didn't think anything of it. I'm just like, they're Braxton Hicks. And
It's a lot more common than you realize. There's so many clients that are like absolutely in denial that they're in labor.
And so then all of a sudden my water broke, and it was just like classic movie, big gush of water, stood up, went to the bathroom. It was just like not stopping, and I was like, Dylan, I'm in labor. So we immediately ran to the emergency room. This is the middle of the night now at this point. Arrived, and it was a crazy monsoon season. So all of the labor rooms were actually full. And so they had to put me like in nurse's triage at first or something. And they're like, we're going to make a room. We're going to make a room. We're getting the OR ready, getting everyone ready for C-section. But because it's twins, they had to have 2 of every staff. And since it was 2 in the morning, they're like calling pediatricians. You got to get to the hospital. Nurses got to get to the hospital. And again, I'm in a small town, so this took a long time. And they're just trying to like postpone my labor as much as they could, with pain meds, I suppose. But I mean, I was like ready to push. I was so uncomfortable. And so luckily, anesthesiologist arrived, got me hooked up with a spinal tap, and like within 20 minutes, the girls were out. Yeah, so it all happened very fast, but I'm glad I got to experience labor. I still just don't know, like, was it food poisoning that induced contractions, or was it labor
Just
all
labor
along?
coming. Yeah,
Yeah.
because a lot of the time, like usually when my clients have like loose bowels, especially, oh, it's good to start paying attention if things are starting for you. But, it is true. If you are getting dehydrated, maybe it did bring things on. I guess we will
We'll never know.
right?
I thought maybe just because like I was vomiting like so hard, that it was
Yeah.
like contracting my stomach. But yeah, we'll never know. And of course, everyone at the hospital, everyone was just like so remorseful. They were like, we definitely should have had you come in. Like,
Yeah, it's like, hello, I'm a high-risk twin pregnancy. Why aren't you having me come in? It's just so
I
funny
know.
sometimes when they're like,
I
oh,
know.
you're okay. And you're like,
I know.
am I okay?
I know. They all felt really bad and embarrassed,
Sure.
and thank God everyone was, alive and healthy, because I can't imagine like, oh, the guilt of that if things hadn't gone okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you, after going through your infertility journey, losing Oliver and then welcoming both your girls, like you had made it? What was that
Mhm.
moment like for you?
Well, since the girls did come at 32 weeks, we spent a month in the NICU, and I think everyone was a little bit more nervous about that than I was. Like, I
Hmm.
think I just had this huge sigh of relief, like, they're here. Like, I maybe had rose-colored glasses on, but I was just like, "They're here." Like, literally nothing else matters to me. They are here, they're breathing, they're healthy. Like, yeah, we have to learn to eat and do all the things that babies need to do in the NICU, but, like, they're here.
Like I can do that, but I can't handle like
Yeah.
the other side of the coin, right?
Yeah. I think my family and Dylan were definitely pretty like scared about the fact that the babies were in the NICU. And to me, I was like, this is great. Like, I don't care. This is amazing. They're here. They're in the
Hmm.
NICU. I don't care. Like, they can spend 2 months in there if they need to. Like, they're just here. And that was all I cared about. So, yeah, once they were here, it was just like very bittersweet, very emotional.
Did you feel in like some sense that some of the like pressure was taken off of you? Because really, one huge part of pregnancy after loss is you have to be so resilient and like no one else can carry
Yeah.
your babies. No one else can tune into those babies. You are the only expert. And I know a lot of us who are pregnant after loss feel a ton of
Mm-hmm.
pressure, right? To be
Mm-hmm.
so hyper vigilant.
That's an amazing question, actually, because no, I carried still a lot of, I think, just like not shame, but I just questioned for a long time, like, but why did they come early again? Like, why, like, did I do something? Did I not do something enough? Because a detail about this is I had my 32-week OB appointment on a Friday, and they were born on Sunday. And at that OB appointment, they didn't do a cervical check, and I didn't think anything of it. And so, in my mind, I'm like, should I have advocated for a cervical check? Like, was I already like dilated and no one even checked me? Is this my fault? Like, did I eat something? If I did eat bad Indian food, like, is it my fault? And so I did just carry a lot of like, did I do something to force them to come early again? And, I will share with you, first came out, one of the girls, she had trouble. She wasn't breathing great. And so they did have to perform resuscitation on her. I didn't know this until their like 2-month appointment. Doctors
Mm.
probably like from a protection standpoint kept some information that wasn't necessary to share, or else it just like slipped through the cracks. But I didn't know this. But when I found out, then I had a lot of guilt of like, oh my gosh, because they were born early, like now are they going to have developmental issues? And is it my fault because I didn't like keep them in longer? It's just like all these things. Like,
Sure. You have to like try to make some sense of what is
well, yeah,
happening. Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're just like, well, now what? Like, is one of them going to have, um, I was very worried in those early postpartum days of like, well, now because she was born early and wasn't breathing, like, is she going to have cerebral palsy? And now that's my fault. Like, I gave this to her, like I think the hormones and everything is just so intense, and coming off of loss, you feel like everything you do is your fault. Like, you messed it up in some way. And really, you're like, the reality is I couldn't have prevented any of it. I still can't prevent anything, and nothing was my fault. But you do carry that. You're just like, well, I failed the first time, so I probably failed something this time now too.
Well, you're their mother, right?
Yeah.
I think a good mother will always question her choices and if they did what's best for the baby. And that's just part of being
Yeah.
a good mother, right? And I just want to assure you, like, cervical checks at 32 weeks usually aren't the norm. So there
No.
was nothing you could have done there. And there's no
Yeah.
way that anyone could have foreseen them coming at that time, right? And like maybe the nurse should have said like, why don't you come in and we'll give you a check or whatever. But there's nothing that you could have done any differently. Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think any mom who's gone through loss, like the brain just tries to like make meaning out of why things are the way they are. And so it's natural that your brain is like, well, I did something. Things don't just happen by accident, but they do,
They totally do. And especially like a trauma brain too, right? Because losing your baby is traumatic, and
Yeah.
your baby's coming early, and like obviously you had a huge sense of relief that they were here, but how everything transpired so quickly is just that in itself is a huge thing to process. So your brain is really just trying to make
Totally.
sense of something that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I reflect on, when my water broke, I think, and when we were headed to the hospital, Dylan was like very freaked out, obviously, very nervous. And I now know that he was nervous because he thought like, well, what if they don't make it? Like, this is so early. Whereas when my water broke, like my adrenaline was just like, they're coming. Like I think my brain was in protection mode maybe. And
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just the brain does weird things. Trauma brain does weird things.
Yeah, I totally get it. I remember just being like, obviously when you are pregnant after loss, there's no like safe zone anymore, right? That's like one of the hardest parts of being pregnant after loss is like that ignorance, I guess, or that bliss is kind of innocence is taken from you, right?
Yeah.
But I know even when I was pregnant, I was like, I just want to get to 34 weeks. And it's like, who even knows why we have these numbers in our head? But part of me was like, when she's here, I just know she'll be here. Like, same thing as you, like, I could deal with the NICU. I can't deal with like not knowing if she's going to get here. While we take a quick break, I wanted to introduce you to The Haven, my signature 12-week support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, TFMR, stillbirth, or infant loss. The Haven isn't just a course. It's a trauma-informed, community-centered space that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing support from me, your dedicated pregnancy after loss doula, anytime you need it. You'll also receive one-on-one check-ins, guided journaling prompts, full access to my birth course Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other Pal mothers, a place where you can truly be real, be held, and be reminded that you are never alone in this. Our fall cohort begins this September and enrollment is now open. Find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/the-haven. Inside the haven, your baby is remembered, your voice is honored, and you are fully supported every step of the way. What about, now that the girls are here and obviously they're perfect and beautiful and just like watching you online thrive as like, stepping into this new role of being an earth mama, like what has like changed for you now that you had Oliver and the girls? Like what did that experience with him change for you being an earth mom with the girls?
Mm-hmm. When I lost Oliver, I went really deep in the spiritual stuff, like I had never lost someone or something like that before. I had never sat with grief that closely. And so I just like went really inward, and I just felt really called to like connect with his spirit and heal kind of like on my own deeply that way. And so I hate to say that like I had to walk that path in order to become the mom that I am today, but in some ways I do think going through child loss is an initiation into like a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of compassion and love. And I don't ever want to say like, oh, I had to go through that in order to become who I am today. But I just think the loss gave me gifts that I wouldn't have maybe perceived or received without losing Oliver. Like, I just don't know. I think his story and the way he came into my life is exactly how it was supposed to be. I think there was reason for it. I think he's still with me. Like, I really, really believe it. I know so many parents of children that they've lost will still say like, I'm a mom of 3 or I'm a mom of 2 and include the child that they lost. But I truly do feel like Oliver is with me. And I might not outwardly say like, I'm a mom of 3 to people, but like, I do feel like I had a son. I do feel like he is still with me. He parents me today. He parented me through my loss. And it has just made me like, I think just more spiritually connected to source and him and my girls.
It definitely like opens like a new level of like humanness or like the human experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that there's such a duality with loss where it's like there's so much grief, but it like opens up this like new level of love and like a love that, if we could choose, we would want our baby here, but it opens up this like new level and deepness of loving, right?
Yeah.
It's just like cracks your heart wide open.
Yep. Exactly. And because I do think, I can't speak for every family and every relationship, but going through it strengthened my relationship with Dylan. We did end up getting married after losing Oliver. And it just like strengthened us as a couple and like how we navigate life and hard decisions and grief together and how we sit in grief and like what comes out of us when we're grieving, the good and the bad. And that's why I say it kind of like initiates you into this like higher level of just understanding other people and understanding and knowing yourself.
Yeah, definitely with loss in your partner, it definitely makes you have to like deal with your shit very quickly because it makes you question so many things, right? And it brings conversations to light that never would have come to light. And it really does put just kind of, at least for me, everything into perspective. And
yeah,
your life partner is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
I know you touched on it a bit, like when people ask you about your baby, obviously that's like, how many kids do you have? That's like one of those questions that we love to get.
Yeah.
But how do you keep Oliver's memory, you know, alive with your family. And I'm sure that as the girls get older, it's going to change and evolve, and that conversation's going to evolve. But what
Mhm.
does that look like for you guys right now?
I would say it's definitely still it's kind of more of a me thing. I would be curious to hear how other spouses deal with that or like how they interpret it. But I know Dylan has like he's grieved, he's made his peace, and he's kind of like closed the chapter. Whereas I am still very much like Oliver's ashes are next to my bed. Like I I would say right now he is alive within me in our family, and his spirit and his memory is alive in me. And in actually the girls' nursery, I have like his handprint is framed on their wall. And I really look forward to telling them about him when they're old enough. And I will, I don't know. I think like I plan on speaking of him like, oh, you had a big brother, there was another baby, to the extent that like they can comprehend it and feel comfortable with it. And then I think at some point, it'll all probably get a little bit more quiet, and it'll probably take a back seat. There's this interesting, very kind of like uncanny metaphor. I was given an orchid when Oliver passed away. And this orchid was so beautiful, and it has maintained flowers for 2.5 years. Okay. If you ever had an orchid, they're insanely hard to keep alive. They bloom and then the flowers fall off and you're left with like twigs, right? Like, and it's so hard. And eventually they will rebloom and it's kind of cyclical, but like it maintained flowers the whole time, never lost flowers. And I remember at one point, even when I got pregnant with the girls, there was like 2 branches with flowers on it, and someone was like, "Oh, it's for the girls, the twins." Well, long story short, this orchid dropped its last flower right at the twins' 1-year birthday.
Mm.
And I like grieved that because I was like, why did it stayed with flowers for 2.5 years and now there's no more flowers on it. And someone wrote me the most beautiful message, and they were like, it's because like it's symbolic that Oliver knows like the girls are here, they're healthy, they made it to their 1 year, and now it's time for you to start focusing on them as he kind of like starts to drift away a little bit. And I found that to be really beautiful and meaningful, and I liked it. I thought it was very positive, because I know Oliver and his spirit will always be with me. But I do think and believe that it's, time for his spirit to venture on and find some new adventures. And I'll keep his memory alive as best I can, and as much as the girls are interested. And if
Mm.
they're not, I won't force it on them.
Totally. That's like a to be continued, right? Because who knows what
Yeah.
that's going to look like or what life's going to look like.
Yeah, but I also think it's important to like talk about it, not just totally. Like for example, my parents had a miscarriage, a late term miscarriage actually before I was born. And my mom kept like one baby thing that she had been given for this baby, and it was a little boy. And so when I was a kid, I had the thing in my room, and I was always like so confused. And my mom kind of was just like, "Oh, it's because mommy was gonna have another baby." But like I didn't understand it, and we never went into it beyond that. And so to me, it was just kind of like creepy.
Like,
I
okay.
don't know, like like as a little kid who doesn't have the skills, like the emotional maturity to know what that means or figure it out, is just kind of like there was another baby. Like I didn't know what it meant. And so I either wish my mom had like explained more and talked more about it, or not at all, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean is like I definitely want to explain it to my girls when they have the emotional maturity to understand it.
Yeah. Like at the level that they're at. Obviously, you're not going to, when they're like 4 years old, talk to them like they're
Yeah.
an adult. But I know there's
Yeah.
so many amazing resources out there now, too, like how to talk to your kids about losing a sibling or death
Yeah.
of a baby. And I'm sure that'll be another kind of
Yeah.
that you guys are going to go across, right? As of
Yeah.
we will too, because I think about it all the time with Senna now that she's getting older. And you're going to notice this too with the girls. Like 1 to 2 is so dramatic of like growing up that you're like, whoa, you're all of a sudden a big kid and you're like asking questions and like understanding things. And like
Yeah.
this year we are going to, have Vienna's birthday, and this year Senna will really understand. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like how are we going to navigate that with
Like
her?
she has opinions now.
Exactly. And like understanding, it's not like just talking to a baby anymore. It's talking to like a real human that
Yes.
this affects them, right? But we'll we'll get there when we get there, right?
I'll buy some textbooks to figure it out.
Hmm. What has surprised you the most with having the girls, having two babies? I know one of the things, like one of the comments, and I'll never forget them saying, like, how are you going to do it with the two girls? Or like, it was something like that. And I would just remember being like, I love how you responded to it because it was so empowering and so kick ass. Yeah, I would just love to hear more about your experience with two babies.
Well, okay, so it's kind of a two-part question. So the first part is what surprises me most about having twins. And I would say the first like 6 months, the most surprising part was I was like, how come no one told me it was this hard? Like,
Mm,
why did everyone keep this a secret from me? This is so hard. And now the biggest surprise is like I thought it would be hard. I just couldn't wrap my head around like how do you love two babies the same? And it's just like I look at one baby and I'm like, I love you so much. Like my heart is like bursting out of my body. And then I look over at the other baby and I'm like, oh my God. And now it's double. Like it's just crazy how much
mhm,
love you can give to two children.
mhm.
Um, so those are the things that surprise me the most, and how hard it is, and then just like how much love you have. Like it's undescribable.
Yeah, like some days you must just feel like combusting,
Oh,
like I
yeah.
don't even, I can only imagine, right? How,
As a big feeling person, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I like feeling like it's such a good feeling, but I'm like, with big feelings also comes like just it's just so much like
oh
because
yeah.
then the stakes are higher, right? Like the stakes of loss are higher when you feel
Mhm.
like you love so much. And so yeah, it's crazy, but yes, sometimes it is like these feelings are so it's like the oxytocin is just out of this world. And then in terms of doing things with one hand as a mom, long before having children, I was always worried. Like when I have kids, how will I make a bottle? How will I
Mm,
hold a baby and make a bottle? How will I change a diaper? How am I going to hold a wiggly toddler down and change their diaper? How am I going to help a baby like learn to walk when they need to like grip onto both of your hands? How am I going to like play with my child at the playground? What am I going to do when all the other little kids at the playground are staring at my kids, like staring at me? Like, how are my kids going to interpret that? And so
mhm,
I've always had a lot of anxieties. And slowly, I feel like I'm kind of working down the checklist of like, oh, made the bottle. That wasn't so hard. Changed the diaper. That wasn't so hard. Like, you just figure out how to do it. But yeah, someone had commented once, they were like, you shouldn't be left alone with those babies.
that's what it was.
Yeah. And I think if I had to give this person the benefit of the doubt, they were probably coming from a place of like, what if something happens? Like you should have support. You shouldn't be left alone. Like someone should be there to help you. I think is maybe how they
Mhm,
interpreted it, but maybe they were also like, this is irresponsible of you to be alone with two kids in one hand. Like, what if something happens? You're not
mhm,
capable. So I don't know. It could be interpreted both ways. And it definitely did stir up some insecurity in me because I have felt that way. Like I have felt, like what if I take my kids to the park and something bad happens and I can't carry both of my kids out of the park?
mhm,
I definitely do have some of those fears. But I think it's just like with anything, with every day that goes by, you gain confidence, you gain ability, you gain capability. And so you just kind of learn what's within your wheelhouse and what might need a little extra assistance. And that's just kind of like what I'm navigating in life right now is like, what do I feel comfortable doing as a mom with one hand? And what do I know I need an extra set of hands for?
Mhm.
And so that is kind of like the learning that I'm going through as a parent right now.
I love that. It's just like when you look back at those first 6 months, you're like, that was so hard. And it's like, yeah, but you did it. I think it's just going to be that continuation of that journey, looking back, being like, oh, I didn't think I was going to be able to do that. But look I figured it out
Totally.
and I totally did it.
Totally. And I actually think like now hindsight, I'm like, give me the newborn stage. That was like so much easier than this, whatever this is right now.
Wait till they start like walking and like opening cupboards and stuff. You're going to be
I
nonstop.
know. No, we're there. We're there.
It's going to be fun.
The dog bowl right now is like the bane of my existence. Yeah. Yeah, we're
so
there.
much fun. I love that. One of the questions that when we were talking about, the spiritual world, because loss definitely I think you do things post loss that you never thought that you would really consider before. And one of those big things is like a spiritual world. I saw that, last week you had a tarot card reading.
Yeah.
And I would love just to hear, if you feel comfortable sharing with us, more about the message you received and how you're kind of interpreting that and what, those next steps might be for you and your family.
So as I mentioned earlier, I went deep into the spiritual world. I mean, I was doing Reiki and I was working with spiritual healers. And in addition to seeing my counselor and a grief counselor, I went on a healing retreat even. And I was working with a lot of mediums and I was just leaning into whatever way I could communicate with my son or get some sort of grounding, right? Of things will be okay. You just want to know that things will be okay or that your child's spirit is going to come back or that someone is going to come back. You just want answers. So yeah, I really was heavy into that for a while. And then it just kind of stopped once I got pregnant with the girls. And so I was at this coffee shop the other day and someone was doing tarot card readings and I was like, that'd be fun. Let's do it. I haven't done this in a long time. I feel safe. I don't feel because you do have to be careful, I think, with some of that stuff. There's a lot of spiritual, I don't know, abuse out there. And so I was like, this is a safe environment. I feel safe. I feel totally secure in life right now. What could go wrong? It's a 10-minute reading. Let's do this. And immediately she laid the cards out and starts laughing. And she's like, you have kids? And I was like, yeah, I have 2. And she was like, okay, you're not done. She's like, you're not done. I don't know if you want kids, but there's more if you want them. And I just kind of laughed because I've been told that also by some other mediums. And it's interesting because Dylan and I do have the conversation of do we want more? And I cry thinking about it all the time because I do want more. But is it that I want more children or do I want Oliver back? I have this feeling of the family's incomplete. There's someone missing still. And so is it is that someone missing Oliver? And will it always be that way? Or is it the prospect of another baby? And that's what I'm not sure about yet. So I'm definitely not ready for more kids right now. We need a year or 2. But that's kind of what I'm wrestling with right now. Is it that I want another body in our house or is it the absence of one that was supposed to be here? So I don't know yet.
A question so many of us grapple with, right? So,
yeah,
that's tough.
Yeah. And I know you had a post on that not too long ago. I think I shared it. And how do you sit with that topic?
It's so hard because like you said, because you've lost a baby, there really will that longing in your spirit for another baby is just always going to be. It's always going to be, right? Because there is one person missing. It's an impossible question, I feel. And I feel the only way that you can really, truly know is the logical side of things, like, can my family actually handle another child? Because children are hard, especially twins, but also like digging into your spirit and like really having a quiet, honest conversation with yourself about what
Mhm.
that might mean. And also, it might mean that it is another baby, right? So I think the only way to really answer it is to go inward, and it might
Mhm.
take some time to go there, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I had a question for you, actually.
Hmm.
This like came to mind a couple weeks ago, so I wrote it down and was like, I'm going to ask Kristen on the podcast. Do you ever go through seasons where you're like, or I guess like, how do I say it? Do you ever miss your grief?
Yes. I totally know what you mean. Yes.
Okay.
And I kind of like, even I wrote a post like 2 days ago and I was like, oh, wow. Like, it's not about like missing your grief, but I saw a picture of me during my grief of like me crying. And it brought up so many emotions because I was like, I totally remember that day. I
Mhm.
totally remember that intensity. And I totally just like with that intensity, I just remember feeling her, like my daughter,
Mhm.
so much. I remember that rawness and that ache and being able to like smell her on her blanket still and really feel her on like another level by looking at that photo. And, a large part of me does miss that intensity because, like, what they say
Mhm.
is like with grief is love. And those days that I'm feeling so griefy, it's
Mhm.
because I love her so much. And it really
Mhm.
like connects you to that love, I feel. And there's definitely days where I'm like, I worry, that the intensity is going to fade because I'm like, it feels like you're kind of moving away from them.
Right.
But then you have like a one off, like September's coming and like that's Vienna's
Mhm.
birthday. And that intensity kind of comes back and you're like,
Mhm.
whoa, okay, they're still there. I still feel it. And it's okay that I'm feeling it. I actually
Yeah.
kind of like being here because it reminds me that she
Mhm.
was real and what I went through
Mhm.
was real and this pain is real. Because I think sometimes too, when you are moving away from the intensity, when you are moving away from that grief,
Mhm.
people in your life notice and like you notice and like you always worry that, they're going to kind of get lost in the shuffle of life and life moving on.
Yeah.
So that grief really reminds you and takes you back, right? That this was
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, exactly. I think like with the hustle and bustle of newborn twins for the last year, there isn't a lot of time to really feel much of anything.
Hmm.
And so every once in a while I'll get like hit by a song or whatever will come on and I'll think of Oliver and I'll have like big wave of feelings and I'll be like, man, I kind of like miss feeling this intensely, like you said,
Hmm.
and no one wants to feel that grief heavy forever, but like in a way it did like open this portal for me of like creative outflow, of
Hmm.
connection to other lost moms, like connection to community, connection to source and spirit, like I said. And then it kind of like, yeah, the lid closes a little bit to that portal. And so every once in a while I find myself being like, I miss my grief because I miss the gravity of like
Hmm.
all the positive that it brought in.
Well, it's
And
so raw, right? It's like the most raw you'll ever feel in your life. And I think sometimes too, when life is just like lifing, it's like,
yeah.
okay, this is just like time passing by. But when you're in that bubble of rawness, it really is a portal. You're like, I'm tapping into this other realm of humanness. And
Yeah.
I just remember for me, it being like, I didn't know this existed until I
Yeah.
felt it. And then it being like, this is like literally changing me. So, yeah, I can definitely relate. Mhm. And I'm sure a lot of people listening, they're like, yep, yep,
Mhm.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. It's like the milestones hit, the birthdays, and then it does all feel really intense again, and you remember how real. But I think as a mother, it's like you were the one who said it first. Like, it is a wintering that only a mother can know. Like, I will never forget when I read your post and said that, and it's like you just want to preserve that, because as more time does pass, it's like, yeah, you're still the only one that can like hold that space for your baby. Yes, it's a experience that only a mom knows, and it's very hard to describe to anyone else.
I think too, as a mother, like even when you were talking about Dylan, like how he's kind of like compartmentalized this a little bit.
Yeah.
Like my husband is very much the same for him too. And I think it is like the difference between someone that's like carried this baby and their DNA is a part of you, and being their mother comes with ownership. And you really are the only one that has that profound connection. And when you do have another baby, like life is so busy, and sometimes you get stuck in that busyness. And it's true, like sometimes you'll just get like absolutely wiped out of nowhere, and it's because like you haven't been feeling it for a little bit because life, right? And then it just like smacks you out of nowhere, and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's there.
I know. Like me, or at the beginning of this conversation when I realized it's August 26th, and I'm pretty sure that was like my embryo transfer day, or the day I was pregnant, found out. So I'm gonna get off this call and go look, because I'm certain it was like right now.
You'll have to let me know.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, what is one message of, advice or hope that you would love to like leave our listeners with today?
I think, wow, so many nuggets here. Okay. I think I would say message of advice is kind of just like on the heels of what we're talking about just now, is that when to all the rest of the world, it can kind of feel like that lid is closing a little bit, or that like life is moving on, and the baby you lost is a little bit, I don't want to say like getting forgotten, or just like isn't as front of mind anymore. Like this community, the people that are listening here, the people that are, connecting on Instagram and through support groups, like your baby and your story never get lost or left behind to other lost moms. And so if you're like ever feeling like I feel disconnected from my child that I lost, or I'm not, or I feel like I can't even express these feelings with my spouse anymore, like there's always a mom here who can relate and hold that space for you. And just to remember that like you didn't have to walk this alone when it happened, and you don't have to 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Like so many women unfortunately go through this, and we all just need to stick together, honestly. Like that's why I love still being in touch with you, Kristen, and reading your posts is like, it does just make me feel like, oh yeah, that isn't just like something that happened to only me, and I'm the only person who has to sit with this and hold my grief. Like so many other people understand this very nuanced life experience that I went through. And feeling seen feels really, really validating.
It's the worst club with the best members, right? Unfortunately, but it's so true. It's not even just in those first days or months or years even. It's like a lifetime club, and this doesn't just go away, right? One fine day. It's something that you're journeying with for entire life, and so are all these other amazing, courageous women. So I love that. Well, Sarah, I just want to say, thank you so much for being here and sharing your heart, and Oliver and your story, and, giving us so much hope. Just watching you and your girls and you step into being a mom, it's so evident how much you love them and how much you appreciate them being here. And you're just such a beautiful mother. And I know that so many of our listeners today are going to listen to you and walk away feeling just a little bit more seen and hopeful. And yeah, I just really want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, I'm so happy to be a mom. Like best gift, that better than I could have ever imagined. Love it. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it and connect with your audience. And yeah, I'm always here if anyone ever wants to like share stories or connect online.
Yeah, what's the best way for people to kind of get in touch with you?
Right now, like in this season of life, I would honestly say Instagram, because I'm never checking emails anymore, but or email. If you want to connect via email, just give me like, a month to respond.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I'm looking forward to releasing this one.
All right. Thanks, Kristen.
Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your heart, all of your story, and your journey with us today. It is always such a pleasure to connect with you and to learn from you. I'm positive there are many women who listened in today that will walk away feeling a little less alone in this season because of this conversation. And to my listeners, I hope you too can lean into that portal when it comes around. It may be deeply painful at times, but if we allow it, it can also open us to become more compassionate, more loving mothers. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider sharing it with someone who may need to hear it too. And until next time, take care of your heart. Your baby is never forgotten, and neither are you. If you enjoyed today's episode and you are looking to feel a little less alone in life after loss, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can continue hearing real, honest stories from mothers who've walked this path too, and to stay up to date with all future episodes of The Rainbow Connection. If you're looking to connect more, Instagram is where I hang out most, so come and join me in a beautiful community of lost moms for PAL-specific birth education, real-life grief talk, and deep solidarity. You can find me at the.doula.life. And don't forget to check out today's show notes for any resources mentioned in this episode, or head to thedoulalife.ca/podcast for more. And remember, you are never alone. I'll see you in the next episode.